Occupational and Professional Licensing Real Estate Appraisers General Provisions. Page 3. Number 4. Experience will be submitted to the board in the form of a log, which indicates assignment information and type, compensation status, time spent on the assignment, and whether the applicant signed the report. Experience credit claimed on the log must be attested to by the supervising appraiser. Experience logs are subject to review and request for supporting documentation. Number 5. Experience review process is the method by which appraiser experience is approved for credit toward licensure or certification. The process includes the review of the experience log submitted by the applicant, selection of 3 or more entries for review of the reports and any additional file memoranda, and approval of experience hours claimed and conformance of reports with applicable national uniform standards of professional appraisal practice, USPAP standards. F. The term starting with the letter F is defined as follows. FIREA means the Financial Institutions Reform, Recovery, and Enforcement Act of 1989 and its amendments. G. Term starting with the letter G, reserved. H. Term starting with the letter H, reserved. I. Term starting with the letter I. IDECC, which means International Distance Education Certification Center. J. Term starting with the letter J, reserved. K. Term starting with the letter K, reserved. L. Terms starting with the letter L are defined as follows. Number 1, licensee means a trainee, license, residential certificate or general certificate. Number 2, location means the offices of the New Mexico Real Estate Appraisers Board will be located in Santa Fe, New Mexico. M. Term starting with the letter M is defined as follows. Module is an appraisal subject matter area and required hours of coverage as identified in the required core curriculum. All modules identified in the required core curriculum for a specific classification must be successfully completed to satisfy the educational requirements as set forth in the Appraiser Qualifications Board, AQB, Real Property Appraiser Qualification Criteria. N. Term starting with the letter N is defined as followed. Non-resident appraiser. For the purpose of 61-30-20 of the New Mexico Real Estate Appraisers Act, non-resident applicants, reciprocity means an individual who holds a current trainee registration, license, or certificate and is in good standing in another state. O. Term starting with the letter O, reserved. P. Terms starting with the letter P are defined as follows. Number 1, practicing appraiser means a state licensed or certified appraiser in good standing, engaged in performing appraisal assignments. Number 2, primary business location means the geographical location of a business where the supervisor and trainee spend the majority of their time. A trainee may perform work only in areas where the supervising appraiser has competency pursuant to USPAP. Q. Term starting with the letter Q, reserved. R. Term starting with the letter R is defined as follows. Required core curriculum is a set of appraisal subject matter known as modules, which require a specified number of educational hours at each credential level as set forth in the Appraiser Qualifications Board, AQB, Real Property Appraiser Qualification Criteria. S. Term starting with the letter S is defined as follows. Supervisor means a certified residential or certified general appraiser in good standing in the training jurisdiction and not subject to any disciplinary action within the last 3 years that affects the supervisor's legal ability to engage in appraisal practice. T. Term starting with the letter T is defined as follows. Trainee means an individual taught to become a state licensed or certified appraiser under the direct supervision of a supervising appraiser. U. Term starting with the letter U is defined as follows. Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, USPAP, means the uniform standard or the profession standard promulgated by the Appraisal Standards Board of the Appraisal Foundation and adopted by rules pursuant to the Real Estate Appraiser Act and deals with the procedures to be followed in which an appraisal, analysis, or opinion is communicated. V. Terms starting with the letter V, reserved. W. Term starting with the letter W is defined as follows. Work file is documentation necessary to support an appraiser's analysis, opinions, and conclusions. X. Terms starting with the letter X, reserved. Y. Terms starting with the letter Y, reserved. Z. Terms starting with the letter Z, reserved. And then it just shows a bunch of numbers right there. Page 4. 16.62.1.8 Standards of Professional Practice, Code of Professional Responsibility, and Adoption of FIREA. A. The National Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, USPAP, as promulgated by the Appraisal Standards Board of the Appraisal Foundation and adopted and incorporated by reference, are the minimum requirements. The Appraisal Standards Board's Code of Professional Responsibility are the minimum professional and ethical standards that will govern appraisers practicing in New Mexico. B. The Financial Institutions Reform, Recovery, and Enforcement Act, FIREA, 12 U.S.C. 3351, and its current amendments are adopted and incorporated into these regulations by reference. C. Pursuant to Title 11 of FIREA, as amended by the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010, the board shall, number 1, designate a high-ranking officer, such as a board administrator, who will serve as the state's authorized registry official. The acronym is SARO, S-A-R-O, and must ensure that non-public data is approximately protected. Number 2, provide to the ASC in writing information regarding the selected authorized registry official and any individuals authorized to act on their behalf, and should ensure that the authorization information provided to the ASC is kept current. And number 3, adopt and implement a written policy to adequately protect the right of access. 1/14/2000, 16.621.8 NMAC-RN and A, 16 NMAC 62.1.8, September 13th, 2004, A, November 25th, 2006, A, January 1st, 2015. 16.62.1.9 Inspection of Board Records. Except as otherwise provided by law or protected by public records, shall be available for inspection in accordance with provisions of the Inspection of Public's Records Act, IPRA, sections 14-2-1 through NMSA 1978, 1974 as amended through 2009. Cost will be determined by regulation and licensing department standard IPRA fees. January 14th, 2000, 16.62.1.9 NMAC-RN, 16 NMAC 62.1.9, September 13th, 2004, October 16th, 2009. 16.62.1.10, severability. The provisions of these regulations are severable if any part of the regulations is held invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction. The remaining provisions shall remain in force and effect unless otherwise determined by a court of competent jurisdiction. January 14, 2000, 16.62.1.10 NMAC-RN, 16 NMAC 62.110, September 13, 2004. 16.62.1.11 telephonic attendance on board members. A. Pursuant to the provisions of the Open Meetings Act, sections 10-15-1 through -4 NMAC NMSA 1978. Uh, 1974 as amended through 2009. Board members may participate in a meeting of the board by means of a conference telephone or similar communications equipment. And participation by such means shall constitute presence in person at the meeting. However, such participation by telephone may only occur when it is difficult or impossible. For instance, when circumstances beyond the member's control would make attendance in person extremely burdensome. B. Each board member participating by conference telephone must be identified when speaking, and all participants must be able to hear each other at the same time. And members of the public attending the meeting must be able to hear any member of the public who speaks during the meeting. January 14th, 2000, 16.62.1.11 NMAC-RN, 16 NMAC 62.1.11, September 13th, 2004, A, October 16th, 2009. 16.62.1.12 Supervising Appraiser / Trainee reserved. 16.62.1.13 Knowledge of the rules. All appraisers shall have the knowledge of the board rules and be acceptance to licensure shall agree to abide by these rules. Appraisal management companies. A. An appraiser may not perform an appraisal for an appraisal management company, AMC, unless that company is registered pursuant to the Appraisal Management Company Registration Act 47-14-1 NMSA 1978. B. In the body of an appraisal report completed for an AMC, the appraiser must include: Number 1, the required minimum information contained within the engagement letter as set forth in AMC 16.65.2.12 NMAC. A copy of the engagement letter will meet this requirement. Number 2, any additional scope of work requirements. C, an appraiser engaged with an AMC must provide the AMC with their combined reporting system CRS identification number. End of page. Page 5. History of 16.62.1 NMAC. Pre-NMAC regulatory filing history. The material in this part was derived from that previously filed with the State Records Center and Archives under REAB Rule 1. Purpose of rules. Office location definitions filed November 29th, 1990. REAB Rule 1, Amendment 1, Purpose of Rules, Office Location Definitions, Field 8/18/1992. Rule 1, Purpose of Rules, Office Location Definitions, filed April 6, 1993. Rule 1, Purpose of Rules, Office Location Definitions, filed January 28, 1994. Rule 1, Purpose of Rules, Office Location Definitions, filed October 2nd, 1995. REAB Rule 2, Standards of Professional Practice, Code of Professional Responsibility, and Adoption of FIREA, filed November 29th, 1990. Rule number 2, Standards of Professional Practice, Code of Professional Responsibility, and Adoption of FIREA, filed January 28, 1994. REAB Rule 18, Inspection of Board Records, filed November 29, 1990. Rule 19, Inspection of Board Records, filed April 6, 1993. Rule 19, Inspection of Board Records, filed January 28, 1994. REAB Rule 20, Severability, filed November 29, 1990. Rule 21, Severability, filed April 6, 1993. God damn, man. Rule 22, Telephonic Attendance by Board Members, filed 8/2/95. History of repealed material reserved. Other history. Rule 1, Purpose of Rules, Office Location Definitions, filed October 2nd, 1995. Rule 2, Standards of Professional Practice. Code of Professional Responsibility and Adoption of FIREA, filed January 28th, 1994. Rule 19, Inspection of Board Records, filed January 28th, 1994. Rule 21, Severability, filed April 6, 1993. Rule 22, Telephonic Attendance by Board Members, filed 8/2/1995, were all renumbered, reformatted, and replaced 16 NMAC 62.1 Real Estate Appraisers General Provisions effective January 14, 2000. 16 NMAC 62.1 Real Estate Appraisers General Provisions, filed December 29, 1999, were renumbered, reformatted, amended, and replaced by 16.62.1 NMAC Real Estate Appraisers General Provisions effective September 13, 2004. Done.